Okay, so before I was unceremoniously cut off by YouTube in my video, so you did not get to hear the rest of my review talking about the books. So I'm recording another video. I'm going to try to keep this shorter, so hopefully the same thing doesn't happen again. I like to think it's just YouTube messing up, or possibly they're watching me and decided to censor me. But I'm not a paranoid, conspiracy theorist. So, anyway, back to what I was talking to you about before. The book I was getting ready to review, A Witch's Grimoire by Judy and Knock. First, I'm going to start with what is the difference between a book of shadows and a grimoire. And I'm taking a definition straight from her because I think she defines it very well. A grimoire is essentially a book of shadows, but not every book of shadows would conform to the definition of a grimoire. The reason that is, a book of shadows differs because it can include elements of a grimoire, but it's vastly more personal. It should include your own experiences with ritual, with magic, in addition to recipes and spells and incantations, knowledge about, gods and goddesses. A grimoire is strictly a book that is for instruction. So it will not contain a lot of personal feedback, feelings, emotions, that sort of thing. That is basically the same thing. Not to say that a book of shadows can't include a lot of instructional material, but generally it does tend to be more personal. If your book of shadows doesn't contain really any personal information, maybe it's a grimoire instead. Call it what you want, but this is still an excellent book because it is an instruction book on how to construct your BOS or grimoire. It contains spells, incantations, informations about 3 different magical alphabets. It has a recipe for how to make your own paper and then bind your own Book of Shadows or grimoire rather than buying one out of the store. It also contains brief section on ethics, creative visualization, some information on rituals and the Sabbats. It's a very small book, but for a book that is so small, there's just so much information in here. I really like books like that. Like, if I pick up a book and there's a lot of filler, I tend to start skipping ahead and get bored. You don't want to do that in a book. You want a book where every page you're like, oh, this is something new. This is something, information I need or want. She also has like a lot of recipes. Like an example, this is an elderflower water recipe. She gives a recipe for breads that you can bake to use for your cakes and wine ritual during, the Sabbats or Esbats. She has a book on laws. She references a lot to Gardner and, some of the other forefathers and mothers of Wicca. So, I don't know if this book is still in print. It's probably pretty easy to find. I'm not sure if she has a lot of books out, but I have another book by her, which I might do at a later time, called The Wiccan Year. And I really do like her style of writing, so I might pick up more books by her. I would definitely look for more books by her and pick up this one. The next book I'm going to talk about is a book I recently just finished. I did not have the pleasure of reading this when I first started on my path, but it is True Magic, A Beginner's Guide by Amber Kay. And this is a book, if you don't know anything about magic, if you're unsure of yourself, pick up this book. Even if you feel you're, adapt in, in your practices and you know what you're doing, still pick up this book. It is a must read for every Wiccan, I believe. Not only does she give you spells, incantations, visualizations, meditations, but she gives you lessons on different styles of magic, helps you to try to figure out what kind of magic user you are. She has guidelines on ethics, there's just so much in this book. I actually postmarked several pages. At a later date, I might go back and do like just a whole video on this book. That's how good it is. So much valuable information. You know, she talks a lot. She talks a little bit about the difference between pagan, Wicca, different paths. So if you're unclear about that, she does help to clear that up. And then, you know, in the back, she has an awesome um, appendix section with a lot of useful information, places you might find magical tools, recommended readings, you know, different things you might use for meditations. You know, excellent, 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 excellent book. I've read it twice now. I probably will be reading this, you know, for the next year. I will refer back to this book. So happy I found the book. So happy, you know, that I got positive feedback that led me to want to buy it. The next book was recommended to me originally by a friend, Mr. Drew Hoffman. And then I found it at Half Price Books and picked it up as on a whim. It was like only $6. So not terribly expensive. And that is Goddess Alive by Michelle Sky. Somewhere. Michelle Sky. There you go. This book is about 13 goddesses. Mainly a lot of Irish and Celtic goddesses, but it also has some Norse goddesses in here as well. And it's basically celebrating the Sabbats and Nesbats with these goddesses, using a different one for, you know, each ritual, each holiday. It contains a lot of information about the mythology of the goddesses. It is sort of a hard book to describe. It's not, I wouldn't call it a workbook necessarily, you know, but the exercises you can definitely work in through. Just, you know, as an example, I'm going to go ahead and pick Bridget because she is one of my patron goddesses. Each section contains story information on the myths and legends of chosen goddess. Then it gets into the holiday, the Sabbath, what we're celebrating for, what you may want to work on. Then you get a guided meditation and path working. I haven't actually done those yet. I find it a little difficult sometimes. But what I'm considering doing is like recording a video with myself reading it, then trying to use it. So maybe I will tell you how those work at a different date. You get an invocation of goddess. You get an activity ritual for the Sabbath. And that's pretty much it. Some sections are a little bit longer, and that is mainly contributed to because of what information is known. As we know, you know, not much was written down about some of these goddesses, you know, so it's hard to determine sometimes what has survived and what hasn't survived. But she does a good job of referencing everything she's telling you. This is my favorite book in the series. It's a series of 3: Goddess Alive, Goddess Afoot, and I can't remember the third book. Goddess Aloud is the third book. I haven't read Goddess Aloud yet, but of the 2 books, this is my favorite. The second one is a little bit of a letdown. I'll probably do that one at a different time. I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye right now. There was another part to this. I had to complain about something. That actually is being shot separate from this, so you will see that whenever I can get that uploaded from my phone. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, guys.